Welcome to the In Between podcast. Today I am joined by Polina Weidner, founder and CEO of The Marketing Model, where she helps brands grow with clarity, strategy, and heart. Originally from Bulgaria and now based in Las Vegas, Polina blends global perspective with creative storytelling to help entrepreneurs scale authentically. She's a marketing strategist, mom, and mentor who believes business success starts with alignment and purpose. Polina, welcome to the In Between podcast. I'm so excited to have Polina here because, one, we're sorority sisters, so we go way back, which it's scary how far college is away from us now. But also, when I started my social media management business, Polina was a couple years ahead of me. And so I look to her for a lot of guidance, inspiration. She even helped me with some photo shoots for one of my clients. And she is just naturally such a giver and always willing to help others. And I just have appreciated her so much. So I'm so excited to have her on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I haven't been on a podcast in a while, so I'm so excited to be back online this way with you. We have so much history, like you said, and it's been so fun watching your journey and you launching your podcast and everything, and I can't wait to share a little bit more about what I do and how we've connected through the past.
Yes, and that's what I'm so excited about because I feel like I knew a little bit of your journey. Obviously, I went to college and then social media, like we keep up, but there's so much that stays in the dark, right? Like you 100%. Think you know people's lives on social media and then you're like, I was reading your questionnaire that I sent you and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know like this part happened or this part happened. And I think especially with business, right? Because business, there's so many ups and downs and you just have no idea what's going on in the past. But I want to start with your story because you have built such a powerful brand with marketing and really marketing with purpose. And you have such an incredible journey of how you started the marketing model and what inspired you to go out and start your own business. And I would love for you to just share with my audience a little about your story and how you became to be a business owner.
Sure. It was never in the plans. I'll start with that. So I went to UNLV for integrated marketing communications. I always had a role in social media. I had an internship in college, all the things. I got a job in the corporate world right out of college doing marketing for a national fitness studio. So I stayed in Las Vegas, but I was able to help them open new locations across the nation. I went from marketing coordinator to marketing manager within a month and a half. So a really quick promotion there, and it was just lightning speed of one task after another and a lot of growth. But 2 years into that job, the company dynamic shifted a bit and I felt like it was time for me to go. So I literally quit with zero plan in 2019. I decided to book a trip to Europe to see my brother, and in the meantime just started freelancing. So one thing led to another and I got a few clients within the first couple of months. So I quit in July. By October, I had pretty much matched my corporate salary. So just within a few months, I was making the same amount of money that I was making corporate as I was freelancing. So fast forward to January 2020, everyone knows what comes in 2020. I launched the marketing model and then COVID madness started. So in 2020, launched the marketing model, and I also got pregnant that same year, and my husband got laid off from work. So 2020 was a very eventful year for us. I think the biggest thing that actually did keep me going, and this is why it's such a big part of my story now, is being pregnant that year and like so much uncertainty. And it was also the year where I felt like, I figured out what I wanted to do long term was launching this business and helping other businesses grow and meet their goals and everything. And marketing strategy is where I thrive. So being able to build that out for others was really motivating to me. So I knew we had the baby on the way, so I had to figure out how to keep going. And that was really my start to this. I said yes to everything that year. And that's one thing I always encourage new business owners to do is just say yes, because saying yes in the beginning will help you say no later on. You'll actually know kind of who you're wanting to work with, what you want to represent and stand for. And you can start saying no when you have a lot of experience to work off of.
That's so true. I love that advice. What a challenging time to start a business, to say the least. A lot was put against you. And then I mean, almost 6 years later, you're still here. What do you think? I mean, obviously, you mentioned the drive of your family and your why was extremely strong, which we talk a lot about here, is having something bigger than yourself. But in those moments where you were just like, how am I going to make this happen? And you touched a little bit in your questionnaire about like, you also couldn't keep doing business the same now that a baby was coming. There was things that need to shift versus like the grind of when you first start a business. So what were lessons that kept you going when maybe you doubted your ability to succeed, or you doubted if it was going to work with everything coming in against you?
Yeah, I think I was willing to accept when something went wrong. Like I knew I dropped the ball a couple of times, and it was frustrating and it was hard, especially, as my first year as a business owner. Like there are a lot of learning lessons. I'm still learning, right? But that first year, you're just really figuring a lot out. So, I mean, I can still remember some conversations, like uncomfortable conversations with clients if something maybe didn't happen on time or whatever. And I tried very hard to make sure that instead of giving up because of it, I took it as a learning lesson. I compensated them the way that it needed to happen. I gave myself a little bit of grace when I could. And every single time I made a mistake, I just tried to build off of it. And, what's funny is that transparency with clients typically kept them around longer. Like I didn't really lose a client because of a mistake, because I always made sure to own up to it and just make sure they were taken care of. So that's one big thing that helped me in the beginning, is just understanding that mistakes are okay as long as you really take responsibility and make the best of it and get growth from it. And then, let's see, what else? Discipline. I always touch on discipline because I always say motivation is very important, right? You have to stay motivated, but if you're not disciplined, you're not going to be able to continue growing. So with a newborn, there is no like consistency in a schedule. And again, I was very new to business ownership when she was born. I think I was a year and a half in at that point. So I had to make some shifts in the type of clients I was working with and also in the things that I was attending. I worked with a lot of service-based businesses and coaches. I worked with a really big author at the time, and they all required me to be available all the time. As soon as she was born, I knew that was just not working. I couldn't answer the call when she was crying. I was, up at odd hours, so the mornings didn't always look consistent. So I made a shift. I pivoted pretty early on. It was April 2021. So she was born February 2021. In April 2021, I met with one of my really good friends and mentors, I'd say, and I was like, look, this is my life right now. I don't want to give up on this business, but I do need to make a change. And long story short, we kind of came down to the conclusion that I would shift to marketing to product businesses instead of these service ones, because product businesses, I could plan shoots much further ahead. I really didn't have to meet with the owners more than, let's say, once a month even, but if they needed to once a week, like I could make that happen. I didn't need to answer the call as consistently. And so my three things, I guess, advice-wise would be discipline, being able to shift and pivot, and understanding when you make a mistake and growing from it. Those are three key pillars that really, I think, were the roadblocks to me getting here, almost like you said, 6 years in, is just keeping up with that and knowing when you need change and making that change.
That's huge because it's scary, right? Like to shift all your clientele being, well, a big chunk of it service-based, to now starting, okay, product-based, that requires you to go out there. That requires marketing on your standpoint to find those clients. And it can feel more comfortable to just stay with where you're at and just keep suffering and feeling like the family side is not as strong as the business, and then the business isn't as strong as the family side. So kudos to you for choosing that, because it definitely, it feels scary.
Yeah, I think change is always scary, right? But it at the end of the day becomes the better decision as long as you can kind of just keep going with it. I think I realized that it was either change or lose the business because there was no way for me to keep up with it at that time the way that it was going. It was great. I love talking to my clients. Like my author client became a really good friend, but I drove out to Phoenix and met her a few months back, and I went to a big conference and like all these things that I just knew were not going to happen at that time, especially, with COVID and the baby and all these layers, it just wasn't going to work. So I had to accept that and just make the change. And of course, marketing for different types of businesses does require different types of skills, but it kind of makes you a stronger business owner because you can adapt that way.
Yeah, it's like diversity in your portfolio. So motherhood has not only changed your whole life, but it's now become a really important part of your business. And I want to touch on this because it's been so inspiring watching you transform your business. And you even mentioned this in the questionnaire, which I love because I was thinking about it as I was preparing to talk to you, of like, you are someone for me that has done such a good job of making your business fit your life and not the other way around. And that's what you've been talking about, right? And now you have obviously such a passion for mothers in business. And I would love for you to talk about how, obviously you were only in business for about 1.5 years before your daughter was born, but how did it change your approach, but also ambition and your definition of success when you became a mom? And then why have you become so passionate about helping moms in business?
Yeah, I think that, I'll actually start with the end and come back, but I'm really passionate about helping moms in business because I have figured out how to be with my kids every day while also running a business. And I want to make sure that other moms have that opportunity. I literally have not left my kids other than, I got to go on like a nice vacation with my husband last year, I think now, or, weekend trips, things like that. It's been by choice, I'd say, versus requirement. And I know that is like the biggest blessing. I was not raised that way. My parents worked both full-time jobs. I was lucky to be raised a lot by my grandmas versus nannies, and so that was a blessing. But I was, like you said, born in Bulgaria, so I had grandmas flying out here to help my parents. I wasn't with my parents a lot. They always talk about how much I cried, like just all these things that I knew I wanted to figure out how to make sure I didn't have to do with my daughter and daughters now. So because I've been able to figure that out, I've been able to run a business and keep a part of myself with my business while staying home with my family. I want to make sure that other moms are also getting that opportunity. And it doesn't have to be complicated. And I think a big part of it is knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect. It's never perfect. I work odd hours all the time. I sent an email last night at 3 a.m. Like, it is normal to have inconsistency. And I think that's one thing that a lot of, honestly, just any entrepreneurs, but especially mompreneurs, need to hear is inconsistency is normal. I think that finding what's sustainable for you is key to making your own life built out to fit your family or whatever your priorities are, even if you don't have kids yet, maybe you really want to spend more time traveling or with your husband, whatever it is, you need to figure out what's sustainable to upkeep for your life and build off of that. I always try to work with clients and do these activities where I have them track like their time for a week and see, okay, this week I actually had only 2.5 hours that I could have dedicated to marketing or social media or whatever. Let's see how much you can get done in that time, because that's realistic, and maximize what you have that's actually available to you versus constantly hitting this wall that's, oh, well, I didn't get to these posts, or I didn't spend all this time engaging or build these things out. And you think you need to show up 24/7, but you don't. You need to show up in the time that you actually have available to you. And you're going to be stronger if you can just work in those time blocks.
Mm-hmm. That is so powerful, even for someone who's not a mom. But I think it's such an important conversation because, one, obviously, I don't have children, so my algorithm isn't feeding me that stuff. But I feel like it's a conversation that internally, if I put myself in your shoes, would be so hard to have, in the sense of like, okay, well, I'm guilty if I'm not here. I'm feeling guilty if I'm not working, if I'm not with my kids. And so the fact that you're opening that door and you're like, let's have a conversation about this. Like, let's be real. Let's have a conversation and realize that no, neither are going to be perfect all the time. And you're going to feel guilty and this is going to happen. And creating, I think that's the important part, right? Is you're creating that space. Do you feel like it's a space that you noticed had a gap because you needed it?
Definitely. I just had this conversation recently with my husband. I told him that I am a better mom, wife, everything. And sometimes moms don't want to admit this, but if I'm with my kids 70% of the time, they get 100% of me, versus with my kids 100% of the time, they get like 40% of me, because I'm more scattered. I have this to-do list that won't go away in my head. I'm trying to split myself between giving them attention and knowing my business is waiting on tasks for me, or the household needs things to happen. So if I can pull away, I use 70% as a good reference, right? If I can pull away 30% of my time from them, but I can give them 100% of me the rest, then I think in my eyes, I'm doing a great job. Because let's say we talk about the in-between on the podcast, right? So I'd say probably about a year and a half ago, I had this moment where I just realized that anytime I was with my daughter, I was still thinking about my business. And then when I was sitting at my desk, I would be feeling guilty that I wasn't with her, right? And we recently found a babysitter we really like, but we, up until I'd say a couple months ago, never really had a babysitter that she was connecting with. So there was this point where we had one girl coming and she would choose to sit with me at my desk instead of stay with her. And the girl was great, but it was something just, I think my daughter's really used to being with me. So I think that played a big role in it, but she would just sit and watch me work. And I was like, this is not this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work long term. I need her to be able to play without me, but I also need to show up for her, because maybe she's just needing more of me in the moments that she's with me to be able to have those moments away from me. So there were a lot of things happening in my mind, in my relationship with her, and just the chaos of it all. And I realized like I need to set some boundaries and some time limits. And even if it's like an hour, my husband gets home from work, we figured out a bit of a schedule where he was working graveyard. So like he'd get home and be with her for, let's say, an hour and a half before he had to lay down. But that hour and a half, I would get enough done to where when I was back with her, I was showing up. So I realized that instead of trying to be everywhere all the time, being in one place at a time was just giving myself the opportunity to really be me to whoever or whatever I was doing at that time. And I think that's something really hard to do, but it's really important to notice. And it's made my mind be a little bit more settled. It's made my relationships be better. And not every day is perfect. There are a lot of days where I'm still everywhere all the time, but majority of the days I do feel like I'm getting dedicated business time and dedicated family time.
That's powerful. I mean, I'm not a mom and I still feel like that sometimes. I'll go visit and play with my nephews or go on a walk with my sister at 10 o'clock and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should be working right now because everybody else in the world is working. And I forget so many times like, well, no, I built a business that I could take a walk at 10 a.m. and be fine, and it's like constantly having to have those conversations with yourself of like, this is where I'm supposed to be and I chose this and I'm allowed.
Right. Giving yourself permission is key. And giving yourself grace, I've been saying that a lot lately, is like give yourself grace, because sometimes you are going to forget to do something or you're not going to get to the tasks. I use this 3-3-3 rule with myself, and I know a lot of my clients use it now. And what I do is every morning I'll write 3 must-dos, 3 want-to-dos, and 3 would be nice-to-dos. So if I accomplish those first 3, I can tell myself to feel like complete and no guilt because I got to those 3 tasks. They can be a mix of, sometimes people like to do 3 business, 3 home. You can mix it, whatever makes sense for your life. I just think that it gives you a way to, at the end of the day, look back and say, okay, I finished my 3 must-dos, so I'm good. And also, if you get to your 3 like-to-dos, want-to-dos, then you feel even better. It's like, oh, I got myself ahead today. and I can shut the laptop at 11 p.m. that I shouldn't be looking at anyway, and I can say, I'm good. I can start again tomorrow. It just makes you feel like you've completed enough for yourself. And I think that's something that oftentimes we're looking for. We always feel like we have more to do as entrepreneurs. There's a never-ending to-do list. As moms, there's a never-ending to-do list. As honestly, anybody in 2025, 2026, like life is just busy. And oftentimes we're just trying to get the next thing done and the next thing done. And I recently hosted my first Working Moms event, and my account manager was there, and the event ended, and she was like, can you just like take a minute, because my personality just goes, right? So I immediately started packing up, putting things away, and she was like, can you just take a minute and take a breath and appreciate that you just did this? Like, you've been talking about it for so long and you did it. And I was so thankful for her. And I think we all need a person like that to remind us of all the things we accomplish, the big and the small. You know, we talk about getting some things done. You know, sometimes it takes a year to do something or a day and a half to do something. It depends on the task, right? But you do it. And it's important to make sure you acknowledge and accept and appreciate all the work that you're doing.
There was so much power in that. And I love the 3-3-3 rule. I'm going to try to start implementing that too. I think it's such a great way to keep yourself on track and also feel like, oh, look at what I did. Because you're so right. Like, I have my project management tool, and I could, get through the whole to-do list, if you will, and there's still 7 million things that I could be doing. And so it's easy to feel guilty and feel like you're not doing enough. You mentioned that rule. What are some other, whether podcasts, books, resources, people that, look to for guidance when it comes to being a mom and an entrepreneur at the same time?
So, former client actually that I mentioned, author, her name's Jordan Lee Dooley. I still listen to her podcast. It's called She Podcast, and she's now a mom. I highly recommend it. There's a very good mix of wellness and business and motherhood. And I mean, honestly, even if you're not a mom, like just a lot of good life advice on health and mental health, things like that are very relatable. But if you are a mom, there's some amazing mom episodes on there. I don't only listen to like mom podcasts. I love the podcast How I Built This for really good inspiration on business success. If you go back, a couple years of episodes, there's really strong ones of Lululemon's history. Like, there are a lot of interviews with founders. So I like to hear those stories. There's a fun one from Tate's Cookies. Those, I think that's, the crispy cookies.
Yeah.
She, just started in the Hamptons baking cookies in her home, and recipes got stolen, all these things. And I think it's so cool to see and hear those stories, to understand that it's never a perfect timeline. It's never a perfect plan, but you can still make it to these levels. So How I Built This, She Podcast. Let's see. I don't know. I should have planned for that question.
No, that's good. That's perfect. That's perfect. I love to hear where your inspiration comes from and where you fill your cup. So you mentioned about a new community that you're building and a new branch of your business. And I would love for you to talk about what that's been like, building that side of it. And I mean, it's a little different than what you currently do in the sense that it's more community-based. It's live events. I'm sure you'll branch out into other things, but share with us a little bit about the new branch of, is it called Mako?
It's Myco Made.
Myco Made. Okay.
And I will explain.
Yes.
So I went back and forth, from a marketing perspective. It's not like the easiest to understand, I suppose. So I struggled, but I stuck true to Myco Made because, like we've mentioned now a couple times, I'm from Bulgaria. So Myco is mom in Bulgarian. And so it literally means mom made. And somehow it's like true to my roots. And, I'm building this community or this village, however you want to look at it. And I felt like it just kind of will tie all the pieces together. So MAYKO Made is where you can find it if you want to join our moms in business community. And the reason that I'm doing this is, we already talked about how important it is for me to help other moms be able to have the lifestyles they want. And also, I'll say financial, and financial doesn't have to be millions of dollars. Like for some moms, they just want to be able to have enough money to take their kids out to different places. So business comes in levels, and business comes in seasons. I know that I've had seasons where I felt like things were going slower because I was spending more time with my family, and there were days when I felt like maybe that was the wrong thing, and I've in the long term realized that was the right thing. I needed to show up for my family, and it was okay if the business was a little bit slower because of that. And I know that's a big pillar of why I'm trying to build this community, because we need to hear that as moms, that it's okay if certain things go a little slower or not as planned. I had moments where I let go of clients, and that is okay because I knew I wasn't able to show up strong enough for them at the time, or I wasn't showing up strong enough for my family at the time, and I accepted that, and I took a slower season. And this community is for those moms who are still wanting to build businesses, not let it go, but understand the flexibility and the ebbs and flows of their businesses to come together in real life. And like you said, it is going to develop. So I actually have some live classes coming, and I created because of my marketing experience, a marketing course specifically for busy moms. And it's launching very soon. You can stay tuned on the marketing model and MyCoMade. And I think that it's important that we have tools specifically for moms, because our schedules just aren't the same as, I was listening to something recently, and it was about planning your day and starting with like an hour and a half in the morning to yourself to do all these tasks. And I literally laughed because I was like, I can't even imagine having an uninterrupted hour and a half every single morning. Like, I just don't even know what that life is anymore. And it's important for us to build our businesses in a realistic way. And that is kind of the whole point of being able to find other people. I hope to kind of make a directory of some sort of different mom-owned businesses. Every sponsor that we had at that event was a mom-owned business. So really I'm trying to just stay true to that and make sure that we all feel the support. We can ask questions, and it's always to people who understand the season of life we're in.
Yeah, one of your vendors, Balloons by Kat, has been on the show 2 or 3 times now. She's a good friend of mine, and so I was excited to see you guys collaborating. And I want to point out, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were teasing this during your postpartum with your second little girl, right? Is this what you were working on? Which I find so inspiring, because you're just like over there building a whole new line of your business while having your second child.
Yeah, I think I'm sure you read thoroughly through the questionnaire that I wrote. A little bit of delusion has been involved.
Yes, you have to. You have to have a little bit of delusion. Otherwise, it's just not gonna. Yeah, you just have to have that belief in yourself. Yeah, because no one else is gonna understand it or believe it, and it's so true. Well, I'm so excited for these events. I'm not even a mom, but I'm excited to be sharing it. I mentioned before we hopped on the call that I already had one client attend that event, and she loved it and felt so supportive. And the best part that I heard from her was like, it was really great content. So that's incredible. And I'm excited to see how that avenue of your business flourishes and that community is built, because community is so needed, like especially coming out of COVID. I think that's the number one thing that I always tell clients in the social world is I'm like, try not to focus on your numbers or your sales, which I'm sure you tell people. I'm like, what is the community that you're building? Like, this is the greater purpose of what you're trying to do with your business.
Yeah, definitely. And I realized too, and I've, felt this all through the years, that coming from a corporate world into really a very lonely space sometimes, being an entrepreneur, you work a lot alone in your office. Even if you have a team, you're just not around people very much. And then during COVID, you weren't even able to be around people, right? So now I see a lot more individuals looking for community, looking for those in real life events, because we need it. It's inspiring. It brings out creativity. It brings out new ideas. It brings motivation. There's so much that comes with true in-person connection. And also finding those groups that you can meet virtually from those in real life events sometimes, or just from these communities that you find online, it's key just to have those people to go to. And entrepreneurship can be very lonely. Even if I have a very supportive husband, but like he doesn't always understand, right? Because he is not me. He's not the one doing the day to day like I am. And finding people that can understand very close to what you're going through is going to make yourself and your business stronger in the long run.
Yes, that's so powerful. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the marketing side of things because I would be remiss to not gain some of your knowledge. So obviously you've gone to school, you've had a lot of experience in all levels of marketing. I want to know from your experience what you think most, let's stay on entrepreneurs specifically, get wrong about their marketing.
This answer would probably have been different, would probably be different every single year because marketing has just developed so much. I mean, I graduated in 2017 and I feel like a lot of my education is like irrelevant at this point because everything's so different. So in today's world, my answer and what entrepreneurs get wrong is we just talked about this too, being really nervous to post about themselves on their business pages and unsure of what to post to the point where they just don't. I know, like, I'm mostly referring to stories, I'd say, and some of those authentic reels and carousels too, but I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and they get so stuck in this moment of, well, is this the right thing to post or is this what I should be creating? And is it this or that? And the continuous uncertainty makes them just not try anything. And that's just affecting them growth-wise and connection-wise and in every way. So not showing up is going to be worse than trying new things and seeing what resonates with your audience. So I would say if you have, if you're nervous to share about your personal life on your page but you've never done it, share for a week or two and see how people respond. Sometimes that's what your community needs to connect with you to then buy your business service or your product because they see who you are. Or maybe it doesn't make sense for you to be so personal, but maybe you need to share behind the scenes packaging products. Maybe you need to share your team more, but you don't do it because you don't want it to be the wrong thing. Just do it and see how your audience connects. Because at the end of the day, if it was the wrong thing, and it's really never the wrong thing unless you're doing something so outlandish that doesn't make sense to your target audience, you're going to see if it doesn't work as well, right? So you're going to see if people just flat out ignore that content, don't respond to your stories, which is almost never the case. Let me add that here. You're going to notice if people don't, but you're going to notice more if people do. And then you've now learned, right, to show up in that same way as often as you can. Share those packages. I have a past client. She did a lot of like home goods, Swedish dishcloths, mugs, things like that. And we learned that her followers love to see their orders packaged. Like it was just a thing that they loved, and they would package it up and say, this one's headed out to Mary. And it brought her so much traction, which is such a simple thing to do, right? You're packing orders anyway. And she was hesitant because she was like, this is not interesting. But you know what? Her audience found it interesting. And those people receiving those packages were excited to see that theirs was getting shipped out. So there was a very connected way to really showcase this online, and then brought in new followers because her Instagram, was seeing spikes of engagement. So then new followers were seeing that content. So long story short, just show up instead of being stuck in that in between of what do I post and never getting it out there.
That's seriously such great advice, and I can't begin to tell you how many people I've been having those conversations with as well from a social side, because you have to think about it. And we just talked about this in relation to building your community. People are coming out of COVID now where they want to connect, and social is one of the ways where they can connect. They can watch a video of you cleaning your kitchen and feel like, this is relaxing because I don't have to clean my kitchen right now, right? And so it's like they want that storytelling. And that's one of the reasons I think that, the static image is not performing as well on Instagram right now is because there's one, our attention span is gone. So like no one wants to just stare at one thing, but two, they want more out of it. They want to learn something. They want to be entertained. And one of the things that I've noticed, especially with like smaller brands that are up and coming, is, you know, when you're building a brand that's not necessarily your face, if it's not directly related to you, unfortunately that is harder to do because it doesn't have the experience, it doesn't have the relevance yet. But connecting to a human one-on-one, face-to-face, that is much easier to grow with. And so I tell my clients the same thing. I'm like, okay, your goal is to build this incredible brand that like is like Nike, right? You can see a Nike swoosh and not have to think about who founded it, but we're not there yet when you're starting small. And that's why it's so, so important as a founder to be sharing your story. And it's also like trendy right now. If you go on TikTok, I mean, everyone's like, hey, I started this business. Let me show you how I run my day. And it's like, from a founder perspective, it's fun because everyone runs their business differently. So I love that you said that. And it also goes back to storytelling a little bit for me when you were talking about the woman who was packaging stuff. That's part of her story, right? Like she still has her and her team doing all of those things, and people love storytelling. And that's something I'm so big on in my business. And I know you are too, is like, you can come up with the most incredible marketing campaign, but if there's not a greater why and story behind it that pulls at those emotions, it's probably going to flop.
100%. And in this day and age when there's constant content, right? There's a lot of disconnect. We are all looking for connection, and a lot of that comes through people's stories, and that's how you become relatable too, and that's how people start to remember you.
Yeah. So how do you translate that, you know, for your clients? Like, how do you pull that out of them and create a marketing campaign that really helps them tell their story and at the same time get sales, get clicks, whatever their goal is?
Yeah, I think there's two parts, right? It's understanding our clients sometimes better than they understand themselves. We do a lot of questioning, it's really in the beginning. The first 30 days, I always tell them we're getting to know each other, right? So I'm going to be asking them a lot. I also ask them for honest feedback on the content we make, which sounds a little bit strange coming from a marketing professional, right? That I want my client to tell me what they think of what we're creating. But when they give us feedback, I get to understand them a little bit more. So if it's something in the copy that they didn't love, or if it's something in the content, like visual content that they didn't love, I will always ask them why. If I disagree, I'll let them know. But typically it just makes me understand how they see their business, so that way I can know them more too. And then the second part is knowing their target audience really well. So every brand is built for a different type of person. So we need to know who we're speaking to. And then we try to connect their personality to the person that they want to sell to at the end of the day, right? Business is business. They're trying to make a sale of some sort. So understanding those two things, we really work on building a brand personality. We used to work with this coffee shop for years. And one of the best things they said as we were offboarding was, you really gave us a personality. And they just had some business changes, which is why we're not working together anymore. But we loved working with them. They loved working with us. And they said, you gave our business a personality. And that was something that I've kind of taken and ran with, because being able to build that for any type of business, whether you're an author, whether you're doing products, whether you're a coffee shop, it doesn't matter, a skincare line, like there can be a personality. It doesn't always have to be who you are, who the owner is, but your business can have its own personality. Your business can be known for certain things. Their clientele was very much younger, but they were people who liked to work in the coffee shop, a little more artsy. So we made sure the content was resonating with their ideal clients. And there was a lot of funny stuff. We gave the baristas a chance to show their personalities on their profile. There was a lot of just small key pieces that allowed their online community to watch who they are outside of the coffees. Like the coffees were a bonus at that point. The baristas knew who was coming in, and the people coming in recognized their faces, which was so cool to watch that transition happen. It was no longer about the drinks. They were literally a bonus. And that is, I think, something really important to hear, because you're like, well, coffee shop, like, we're coming in for the coffee, right? But we're also coming in for the community. We're also coming in for the ambiance, the experience. Maybe I'm spilling some tea with a barista because I come here every day and now we know each other. There's a lot more that goes into your digital marketing to translate into that last final sale that then continues to trickle into more and more repetition.
That's so powerful. I am curious to see how, as someone who obviously started her business, was in corporate without AI, how you've incorporated it and made it, if you have, a part of your business.
I'll be honest, we don't use it, I'll say, as much as we should. But should is kind of probably not the right word either. I like using AI. I think that it is a time saver, but we use it more as an editor and a brainstorming buddy and maybe a time saver instead of something that is doing the work for us. And I'll give you an example. Instead of asking, I'll just use ChatGPT for this. Instead of asking ChatGPT to write a caption, I'll ask it to edit the caption that I wrote, just to clean it up a bit. Or sometimes, I might feel like a blog needs a couple more details. I will write the blog, copy, paste it into the AI platform, and say, I think that X, Y, and Z is missing. Can you please add in those details? So we really try to still stay strong to doing a majority of the work, but utilizing it in a way that makes the copy a little bit stronger and makes the ideas a little bit, fresher, because sometimes, when we've been working with clients for a very long time and there's no new launches happening or new campaigns, the content ideas can get a little bit repetitive. So having AI I will literally, I'll have our team upload 6 months worth of outlines that we've done in the past to ChatGPT or whatever platform you want to use, and say, use these outlines to create a fresh outline for us for the coming month. And that way, it's not only, it's learning that whole voice, it's learning the types of posts that business is already doing, it's learning everything, and it keeps the formatting that we use already consistent. So we can pretty much copy paste and then review what the AI source made for us. So ChatGPT usually. We've been testing Gemini and all the other things too, but I don't just use ChatGPT because I feel like that is the main one everyone's still using. Yeah. That will just get kind of pulled in, we'll review it, we'll clean it up, and then we'll be able to create content based off of its guidelines that it got from us, really. Yeah. So we'll never just depend on it, but we'll use it as just, we'll call it an assistant.
I love the way you worded that, and I'm right there with you. There's certain things where I'm like, you have those days, I'm sure you have them, that you're just brain dead and you're like, okay, there's a concept in my head, but I can't really expand on it. I don't have the brain cells, and I'll put it in AI and then it'll finally click for me. And just like you said, I can refine the concept, but like the original idea was in my head. But I think, it's an interesting conversation. That's why I brought it up, because I remember probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was sitting in a room it was like a mastermind, and AI was just kind of blowing up, and we had a presenter and he was like, oh yeah, it's going to take all these jobs, and someone raised their hand. They're like, yeah, like Kassidy is going to probably be out of business in 2 or 3 years because AI can do all of this. And I was like, of course, offended, but I was like, that was really where storytelling like solidified everything for me, because I'm like, there is no way for AI to understand a story empathetically the way that you and I do to create an entire campaign out of it in any way that works, right? And so it really has become something where at first I was like, I'm not using this at all. I want to prove, I want to work as hard as I can. And now it's definitely become something where I'm like, okay, this is a tool in my toolbox, just like Canva is. I have to utilize it for some things, but it doesn't take away anything that I do. And I have people that come to me and they're like, oh yeah, well, I've been using ChatGPT, whatever. And I'm always like, well, how's that working for you, right? Because your dashes are giving everything away. But it truly is one of those things like, it can develop graphics, it can develop your logo, it can write your caption. But the bigger question is it doing it well, and is it actually resonating deeply to you? Because like you just said, you developed an entire personality for a brand. That couldn't have been translated, I believe, through AI. I think that was a lot more of the in-person work that you did, you going there and learning and visually seeing like, wait, these baristas really have a connection with our audience. Why are we not utilizing them? Your ChatGPT is just never going to be able to know that. And so I think it's so important as marketing professionals to be there, especially when we're getting clients that have utilized it a lot as small business owners trying to save time. But it's important to understand, if you're listening to this and you're a business owner, that it will serve you longer and better in the long term if you are working with someone who is able to utilize AI, but also have the brain power and the knowledge to help you grow in your business and create strategies that honestly feel most authentic to you, with which both of us use in our branding, because authenticity is so important right now and so lost, and we're trying to bring it back in the marketing world.
I completely agree with you. And I believe that it's important to use AI to understand it and to use it as a tool, like you said, because you also don't want to fall behind, but you don't have to worry about it taking over. And I listen to Gary Vee a lot. I'm sure you know who Gary Vee is. He recently did a post that said AI is not going to take over your job, so relax a little bit.
Yeah.
I do think there will be a lot of change, but it's not going to be as scary as long as we're willing to adapt now to make sure we know what's coming, right? And there's a lot of pillars that AI will not be able to take over, and authenticity and understanding a brand is a big key one here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Paulina, I am so grateful for you joining us. I feel like I could have talked to you for hours and asked so many questions. You're just a wealth of knowledge. I would love for you to share with my audience where someone can connect with you, both for, personal, your community, and then also if they're looking for marketing services and want to have a bigger conversation about that, where they could book a consultation.
Sure. So the marketing agency is The Marketing Model. No dots, nothing, just The Marketing Model. So find me there if you want to chat anything marketing. If you have questions, sometimes we do small social audits. So just join us there for that. And if you are a mama in business looking for community, both online and in person, I'm based in Las Vegas. So that's where our events are right now, but we are looking to expand. So follow us at Mykomade. It's MAYKOMADE.
Perfect. And we will put all of those in the show notes so you can give Paulina a follow. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll catch you later.